and the iHeartRadio app.
Hey, everybody, we're hanging out here in Glendale. That's right. That's where you can find us on Bell Road at 75th. And we are here at the Barrio Queen. It is Taco Tuesday and an El Bandito Yankee Tequila Tuesday as well. Which brings us to our upcoming guest, Kyle Vanden, Bosch, former Cardinal defensive lineman, edge rusher, does everything, sold popcorn, Pepsi, everything, you name it.
Whatever it took, Jimmy.
Whatever it took. And Kyle, before I bring you onto the show, let me do this first, and then I want to get your opinion on this. The State 48 Roofing It's Your Call question of the day. And for a free quote, repair, or installation, just go to state48roofing.com. And you can follow them on social media by searching hashtag sexy roof status. And here it is. During the Cardinals preseason, should the Cardinals play their starters a lot or save them for the regular season? Just two options. One, save them. Two, play and get some chemistry. Welcome to the show always, Kyle. Where are you on that particular question? I'm just curious.
I think you have to play them a lot. I'm of that opinion anyways. Look, we bubble wrapped the team through the preseason last year, and we all saw how that turned out. The only way you get better as a football player and as a team is to give reps, and it's not just practice reps. It's reps against live action, against other teams, against teams that have a different game plan. And especially in the Cardinals situation, yes. I mean, you've got a completely new offensive system. You've got a completely new defensive system. You can't just practice these against each other. You've got to practice them against other teams, and you've got to do it with the guys that are going to be on the field on Sundays. I mean, I don't know what that looks like, whether it be just the first two preseason games, but, the NFL has already shortened the preseason. It's only 3 games. It's hard enough with the NFLPA and the NFL with all the agreements they came to about how to protect players in training camp and the off season. It's hard enough to get any sort of semblance of live reps. You need to take advantage of every opportunity. Again, you get the impression that, Jonathan Gannon and Nick Lawless and Drew Petzing, they have a vision and they have an idea, but there's going to be some trial and error there. They're going to need to try some things in the preseason that they may have to scrap because of the people that we have on the football field, or just because of how it looks against a real live actual defense. So I think, I don't know what your poll results look like, but I would have to imagine almost every fan would love to see starters play in the preseason. But aside from that, I think there's tremendous value in getting those live reps against another team.
Well, so far to answer your question, playing get chemistry, 87.5%, Kyle. Save them 12.5%. You can also go to @RockAmanuch on Twitter. And unlike you, I could not believe what the former staff was doing, saving these guys and bubble wrapping, as you mentioned. And then I watched, the Philadelphias, the Chiefs, a lot of teams, a lot of preseason games last summer just to kind of see, okay, how much do they play, how much do they not play? Well, Andy Reid had his teams play at least a half, I think, in all 3 of the preseason games. And the one thing, Kyle, it was very noticeable the very first game of the year there at State Farm, which is right down the street from us, how much more sharp, in sync they were than the Cardinals since they had played that much more preseason.
Yeah, and, it's a bit of old school thinking, and I know there's all the sports science now about how much you can work in condition and before you reach a certain stress level, but you've got to callous the body. I mean, if you have your first live action with pads, and that occurs in the first regular season game, to me, that's a much larger injury risk than doing hitting and having contact throughout training camp. I mean, you've got to learn, again, your body, you know this, Manuch. I mean, your first 4 or 5 days putting that helmet back on, your neck hurts. It's sore. I mean, and the same with shoulder pads. It's your body has to get in hitting condition, not just running condition, not just get in athletic shape. I mean, you've got to do things to condition your body. And to your point, not just the Chiefs, but I believe the Eagles play some of their players in the preseason. And a lot of the teams that made runs deep into the playoffs that were the healthiest come week 7 entering the playoffs were teams that did play their starters in the preseason.
Why do you think some coaches went away from that when you just referenced that it shows if you do work your starters a little bit, at least in the preseason, it does pay dividends right out of the gate? Where did that kind of come from, Kyle? Can you kind of set us up on that and fill us in?
Yeah, just from my memory, I believe the Rams were the first to not play starters at all throughout the preseason.
Yeah.
And this was a number of years, and this was when John McVay had that team rolling. Now, a friend of mine was their head strength coach at the time, and I asked him about it. I was like, how do you get ready for a regular season when you're not playing any preseason games with your starters? And they did things throughout the course of a practice week. They would practice against other teams. They would have actually live drills against each other in practice, but they just didn't want that added risk during the preseason games. And you know how the NFL is. It worked for the Rams through, for a number of years. They were successful in the regular season. They made a couple of postseason runs, and it's just a copycat league. And, again, I'm all for data. I'm all for sports science. I think it's done tremendous things, not just for the game of football, but for sports in general. But I was back at a Lions training camp practice. It's been a number of years now, and they had those GPS chips, and they would track acceleration, distance run at practice. And if a player hit a certain threshold, he would have to sit out the next practice. He took too many steps. He accelerated too quickly. And, my question was, well, how do you know what you have in a player in an overtime game? How do you know which guys are going to be able to function and step up in the fourth quarter when, 75% of the games can be won or lost in the second half of the fourth quarter. And that's when you need to dig deep, but you don't know. You're guessing and hoping about which guys can function when their bodies are completely fatigued because they haven't reached that threshold at all throughout practice or throughout training camp.
Do you think, Kyle, I mean, we're not scientists or physical therapists, but, many, many years ago, we didn't see, I think, as many of these soft tissue injuries or some of the things you see right up front in the season because of lack of, I'm just going out and say it, physicality at a camp or pushing yourself through or breaking through that window to make sure that you're completely healthy versus waning your way into the first 4 games of the year. When we were playing, we're good from the jump that first game of the year.
Yeah, and I've been in training camps and practices where your preparation was so hard. The games felt easy. Like you weren't necessarily. I mean, there's games where you can't get out of bed on a Monday morning, but there were games where you didn't even feel like you played a game some Monday mornings because your body was so conditioned. I think that's definitely part of it. Another part of it is look, Manute, let's be honest. These players nowadays have a lot more muscles than you had. So that's probably why you didn't have any soft tissue or muscle.
Wait a second. Well, if any other quarterback could do a set of 3 at 300, I want to see him, okay, on that bench press. So where you at on that, big? Hey, in our day, I got to tell you, you bring up something. There was a lot more, I felt, heavy lifting, more body lifting because of all the shots you took. You need to kind of have that self-preservation, and you included, Kyle, where more it's bands and dumbbells and this and that. I'm like, well, how are you protecting yourself? I just got done watching The Quarterback on Netflix. You'd love that, Kyle. The shots that
I loved it.
The shots that Kirk Cousins was taking and Mahomes and Mariota, and those guys lift, they work out, they run, and I thank God, because how do you sustain that for 17 games and maybe 3 or 4 more to a Super Bowl? You got to grind with the free weights, I feel.
Yeah, you know what? To your point, this series is incredible. Anybody that hasn't watched it, I recommend just the amount of work and preparation and what they have to do to get ready physically and mentally for a game on Sundays. I mean, you have, no idea. To me, look, here's what's impressive. People think Patrick Mahomes goes out there and it's schoolyard, backyard football where he just kind of runs around and throws a football. One, his film study and game preparation is off the charts. But 2, he is going through full, heavy, difficult workouts 2 days before games. I mean, his Friday workouts with his private trainer. I mean, he's getting it. And this isn't just, week 1, 2, 3 when your body still feels good. This was on a high ankle sprain right before the Super Bowl or right before the AFC Championship game. Like, anybody. You probably hear this all the time, Manute. It's like, I probably could have made it if I didn't have this injury, or I could have done it if this happened. Like, I mean, you're giving up a almost all of your life to the game, to be dedicated. And it's not a 9-to-5 job where you check out when you get home. When you get home, you're still doing things to recover, to take care of your body mentally. You know, Kirk Cousins mentally studying how to recite back the plays while he's driving home. And it's absolutely incredible, the time and the commitment
2 minutes
that any NFL player, if they want to sustain a career, that they have to have, but quarterbacks in particular.
Kyle Vanden is our guest on the Right Toyota guest line. Kyle, if that's the case, how difficult is it in today's game where now you have incorporated Thursday night games?
Ooh.
Does that just double the
man.
pain and the preparation prior to that Thursday night game?
And they showed that Minnesota clip with them having to go play Thursday. They did a whole lot of nothing for 3 days, Kyle.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. I played 3 seasons in Detroit, so we always had the early window on Thanksgiving. And it's walkthroughs, but it's again, talk about, what's pretty incredible. And Kirk Cousins talked about this. Like, there's days you wake up on a Monday and you don't know how you're going to do it the next Sunday, but by Friday you all suddenly you can flip a switch and you feel great by game day. And it's just amazing what the human body can do to heal itself in that short amount of time. But the turnaround from a Sunday to a Thursday is so difficult. Particularly, even playing in the early window, I was fine playing on a Thursday, but just give me the afternoon. Give me a few more hours to get my body warmed up for this Thursday game, and I felt like I'd have been better. It's like, every extra minute, every extra second you get to recover for that next game. It's just a constant battle of trying to get your body ready for the next week. And the fact that I believe teams could potentially play multiple Thursday games this year, get flexed into a Thursday. It's man, that's it's hard. And it's honestly, it's not safe. I understand, the NFL to a large degree cares more about viewership and revenue than they do player safety, but I think it's something that will be addressed in the next collective bargaining agreement, because it's not safe for the players.
It's always great, pal, when you take time with us. Have a great weekend. Try to stay cool in 118 degrees.
Yeah, right. That's not happening.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle.
We'll see you, pal.
Thanks, Seth.
There you go.